Oh boy, my bell, my bell, my bell. Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 family. Let me fix my hat. Let me ring you all in. Let me ring you all in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh boy, we start now asking questions. I love it. Let me write that down. Lafia, welcome, family. And give everybody a moment to come in. See, we're going to do like a chat today because, boy, these ancestors have been wearing me out. So I was like, I think it's time to share a little bit with all of you some more because you all know how I love to talk about the ancestors and see what Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe. All right, family, let's come on in. Welcome, 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 everybody. Hey, look at this bell today. Look at this one that I'm using today. It's a double bell. I have this thing for bells, just in case people aren't aware. This one's a two-part bell, which is so sweet. I have all different kinds of bells that I collect. Love them. All right, so let me start writing down a few questions while we all come in. What's the difference between AS and the ancestors? I'm not sure what that question is. How do you honor the ancestors with a multicultural background? Okay, so we're going to have to keep track of some of these questions. And I'm going to give you guys 1 second while you come on in. I've got all my little notes here for you today, but I like that question about multicultural and honoring the ancestors. All right, family. So thank you. Great to see you all. Let's come on in. You guys know who I am. Just in case you don't know who I am, I'm Reverend Dr. Elemi Gale. I own Yeyeo Botanica. And my forte is spirituality, indigenous practices, African spirituality, right? And definitely ancestor veneration. So let's see. Thank you for these wonderful messages. Well, I did a video already that says what to do between 3 and 5 a.m. I welcome you to watch that video on our channel. We'll answer lots of questions. It says, what can we do in daily life when we live with toxic people? Oh my goodness. Let's talk about the ancestors a little bit. Everybody's got ancestors. It doesn't make a difference whether or not a person's adopted, they're fostered, they like their family, they don't like their family. Everyone has ancestors, right? And I think it's just so interesting that we're in these faiths, right? People are into ancestor veneration and putting up something for the ancestor. I remember when Ancestry got really popular, that website where people get their DNA done. And you find out about, oh, you're this percentage of this and you're this percentage of that. And I think that it answers so many questions about ourselves in certain ways. And in other ways, it's just kind of like, oh, it's note to file about myself. Or it explains why I always like to have, I don't know, Asian coins, or I loved everything African, or it's a part of every single human being. And I think that having an ancestral connection, I don't think that everyone needs to have an altar up. I don't think that everyone needs to venerate. I think that you can. I was speaking with someone the other day, and he was talking about just kind of coming into this knowing, coming into this period of going, oh my God, I really feel like I need to do something for the ancestors. You guys are going to love this. You're going to be like, really? She really did that? And I said to him, I said, I want you to see if you have any money in your pocket or any money close by that you can get your hands on. See this? Who sees this? This is ancestor veneration. Because every time you spend that money, and this person who is deceased, it doesn't matter what country you're in, this person who is deceased, you're venerating them. Hello. I'm going to talk to you guys straight today, because I think that people are on like this whole, oh, it's just so nice and cute. Yeah, it's cute. But this is reality. You go to a park and you see a statue of a person, and that's ancestor veneration, right? We hear about these things so often all over, and we wonder, what's this all about? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So what's the best candle? I'm going to answer a couple of questions here again. What's the best candle for travel? Protection. Right? Just to make sure everything goes well, no problems, no issues. My favorite line when I'm traveling, no problems, no issues, right? Thank you. So family, this idea of ancestors, we can have ancestors that we venerate also, even who are people who are like step family, right? So like I have someone who on her altar, she has her stepfather, because he has been like a father to her for her entire life. He's done good things for her. He's given her counsel, and he's treated her like his own child, right? So this idea of ancestors, I wanted to just kind of review a little bit this definition. It says biological, spiritual lineage who have passed on. In certain faiths, like the Yoruba, Ifa, Lukumi, Santeria path, the ancestors are mostly looked at first as direct lineage, parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and so on, going laterally, and your parents' siblings. But then once you get into cousins and things like that, they don't really get into that as much. So this idea of how do we deal with spirit? How do we deal with ancestors? I've been thinking about this recently because I was doing some work for some of my ancestors, and some of them were just so unruly. I think that everyone has ancestors someplace that are just out of pocket. Like, hello? So I was thinking about, I did some work for them, and that work was received, which I'm so grateful for. But there are a few of them that were just real rebel rousers. They weren't trying to have it. They weren't trying to go to the light. They were like, I'm still enjoying this life in this world. And all of that hoo-hoo, rah-rah, go to the light, be good stuff. They were like, give it the finger. Like, I really want to do that right now. But they were like, F that. All right. And that took some work. Thank you. That took some work just to really inspire them and say to them, it is better on the other side, right? For them, right? We're in this life. So, in this life, our objective is to live the best life that we possibly can live, right? To have the best life we possibly can have. And once once people have transitioned, it's really important for them to now move to the next level. It says when you speak on spirits, you are talking about the Egun stick or the Bovida. So in this context, we're talking about Egungun, your ancestors, your bloodline, right? And those people are venerated through the Opa Iku, the Egun stick, right? Or the staff that is used for the ancestors, which I have one here. So if it's necessary, I'll bring one over. The Bovida is thought of from a Latin perspective, is thought of as the place for spirit guides and protector spirits. Oh, so sweet. I'm okay with the shaker. It's just great to see you and get a little shout out from you here. You guys just need a live about candles. Maybe we'll do a live on candles the next time, or just chit chat about candles. So there's a lot of blessings and a lot of benefit to be gained from ancestors. And so I was talking with someone the other day who was fostered, and he was a foster child. And when he got into the foster system, or his life was so good to the point that he was able to help his own mother who was having a hard time. And he said to me, he was like, for someone like me, I'm so surprised that my life has turned out to be so good. I said, but there's so many ancestors out there rooting for you, wanting to see you have a good life, wanting to see you not um, live a life of challenges. And so we all have spirit guides, protector spirits, and ancestors that come together to help us on our journey. All right. So let's see what this is. Da, 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 da. I want to read some of your questions to see if I can answer a few. Thank you so much. We love you for supporting the channel. I really want to hear you guys' suggestions for the channel, because I'll be changing the channel and I want to hear some suggestions. I'm going to go through a few questions that you guys may have around ancestors and spirituality in general, and see if we can answer a few of them while trying to keep them a little bit cohesive instead of being a little all over the place. It says, how do you charge herbs before using them? I'd say you just pray over them. In my view, herbs are already charged. They're naturally charged by the source. They were green. They had life force in them. Now they're dry. If you boil them in water, they become re-energized. So definitely, thank you, my TikTok people who are on with me. We're on YouTube and TikTok right now. They're just naturally charged, I feel. Okay, here's a great question. If you're mixed, it be possible for your spirit guides are from different tribes to your lineage? I'm not really sure the question, but I would say that spirit guides can be from the same tribe as your lineage of family. Absolutely. But spirit guides, for a lot of people, are very random in terms of they come from different lifetimes. So let's say in one lifetime you lived in Italy, another lifetime you lived in Brazil, another lifetime you lived in different places. Sometimes spirit guides get picked up along the way in that way. Sometimes they come through family lineage where it's like a spirit guide in particular that follows different people in the family. Oh, let me hear your question about asking about being mixed, right? So I just answered that part. Let's hear what your question is about being mixed. Thank you for putting that out. It says, I was dropping my, whoa, that's a big one. Okay, so let's read that. I was dropping my blood on my grandmother's grave, which is next to my grandfather's grave at a veteran cemetery to clear ancestor curses. X, 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 X. That's a bad idea. Bad idea. It's a bad idea for so many reasons. If someone told you to do that, you need to consult them and find out what path of training they're under to do that. Because once you start doing bloodletting of your own blood, you're basically feeding not only that spirit, but everybody else in proximity in that cemetery with your blood. You need to be very careful with doing things like that. There's a reason why animals and different things are used for bloodletting. That's very dangerous, very, very dangerous to do for yourself. But if that's something that you've done in the past and it works for you, keep on. But I would not encourage anyone on here to do that. Let's see. So be very careful. How do you know you are reaching ancestors, old and new, to make sure you're giving respect and honor? If you can't do an ancestral altar, how can you still pay homage? So let's talk about the first part of the question. How do you know? Well, there are ways to ask the ancestors direct questions, right? I was dealing with something last week or the last couple of weeks with a couple of my godchildren that come from kind of fractured family lineage. And there were some ancestors that they were venerating at the altars that were not supposed to be there. And so we had to release them from the altar and do some work with them separately to then integrate them back into the ancestor altar realm. Some of them just couldn't be added back to the altar at all. So I think that one, you need to be getting some guidance from elders who know how to consult the ancestors and definitely know how to ask them questions to figure out which ones are with you, which ones are helping you, and which ones are still on the journey of enlightenment, where they need to be elevated more in order to come and give you assistance and support. Because at the end of the day, if they're not able to give you assistance and support, then what's the point of venerating them here at this altar? It could be that they need to do some other work, or other work needs to be done for them in order for them to now be of help to you, but also to receive the light, receive the elevation that you're putting out for them. Let's see. And how do you pay homage to them if you don't have an altar? You give them libation. You drop cool water on the ground. You call their names. You pray for them. You can have an ancestor staff if you don't have an altar. I mean, there are lots of things you can do. Go in nature. Go to the cemetery if that's a place that you have access to. There are a lot of different things that you can do to give honor to the ancestors. But when people have altars set up, right, having the altar set up is for much more longevity, right? That the ancestors can receive your prayers on a regular basis. You come home, 11 o'clock at night, we can have a prayer. At 6 o'clock in the morning, we can have a prayer, versus always having to go somewhere to be able to interact with them. This is part of the reason why people have altars and things like that. All right, we do have an ancestral altar set up. I need to take care of myself, and in that way, I'm taking care of the ancestors. Absolutely, if you're not in a good way, you're more than likely not getting the fullness out of your space with them. But if they're not in a good way, then they're also not in the best way to be able to help you as you may need help or guidance in your life. These are really good questions. My mother's lineage is African, father's is Italian. Not sure about practices. Well, I mean, if you're into ancestor veneration, there's no reason why you can't represent both African lineage and Italian lineage. Why? Because you're of both of them. Says, all my elders are gone and not sure how to go about it. So that's where you have an altar set up for the ancestors, and you say, this altar is open to this part you got to lean in for, all that come in love, peace, and light. This is what I teach my godchildren. I'm teaching all of you. Love, peace, and light. And that's what has been taught to me. If you're not coming in love, peace, and light, this altar ain't for you. That's very clear, right? But again, if this is something that you want to take very seriously, then that also is something to consult with an elder, to, even with people's names, if you have names, to be able to check for you to make sure that the spirits that you are calling are there for your benefit and your upliftment. Let's see. I love these questions that you guys have today. I'm very grateful for them. Because Spirit was like, do some ancestor. We want to talk with you. So I want to share a couple of things with you guys about this idea of ancestors. I did a couple of videos on enlightened and unenlightened ancestors. And I think that there are times where we think about spirit. They're good spirits and they're bad spirits. And, some are in the dark and some are evil and all of this stuff, right? So the term that we like to use is low vibration versus high vibration, right? Or lower frequency versus higher frequency. Enlightened versus unenlightened, right? Because it's if you think about spirit on a ladder, when someone passes away, they're moving up the ladder to become more and more enlightened, more and more powerful in their power, in their assignment on the other side. And if they're not living in that way, then they're looking for light. They're looking for something to help them elevate themselves, elevated versus unelevated, right? These kinds of terms. And I think that a lot of times there's an assumption that as soon as people pass away, relatives, they're hearing me, they're talking to me, they're coming to me in dreams, they have things to do for me, they can help me with my money, they can help me. No. Let me say that again. No. They're on a journey, right? Um, I have a person who, their mother passed away and they were just grieving so much, and this is so normal and so natural to be in a grieving state and not being ready to have that person who has transitioned kind of elevate themselves. And the statement was, well, Elemi, I don't understand why she's not coming to me in dreams. I don't understand why she's not coming to me just like that. I'm like, well, she's on a journey, right? She's got places to go and things to do in order to be able to come back and help you and look for you and check for you and be there, right? And so if we're doing too much calling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, they can't elevate, right? You need to think of them like a bird just flying free and wanting to get enough energy and power that they can come back and help you in your life, right? So it's good to give them a period of time when they've transitioned to generate the kind of energy that they need in order to be strong and to be elevated. Because if they're not elevated, that's a problem. They're not elevated for you, for themselves, it's a problem for you. If they're not elevated for themselves, it's a problem for them. Why? Because that means that they're on this plane, and if the spirit is around on this plane, then it can be very problematic. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what does it look like for ancestors that are not necessarily enlightened, especially when you put up an ancestor altar. Because I have a few people who they had relatives that they couldn't, they venerating them didn't matter. So this part I think you guys are just going to love, right? So I have lots of stories, but this one in particular, the ancestor came forward and was like, I don't know what you're doing. That whole altar situation, that's cute that you're doing that, but I'm not really interested in that. I'm still interested in hanging out, get my drink on, get my drug on, having a good old time. I don't know. All of that, that ain't for me. Right. Then I had another person who the ancestor, when they were alive, were just so toxic, and just really poor character, really, really just not a good person. And what happened? They came through and basically was cussing and carrying on and was like, I'm mad about being on the other side. I'm 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 not ready to move on. I am not ready to move on. And so all of that kind of energy, this person had been trying to, they didn't realize that they were kind of working against themselves with calling on that particular ancestor, especially the people who have ancestor spaces for one person. And so I want to share with all of you, if you have guidance, you have elders that you can work with around that, you need to expand that conversation, and not just for one person, but also to learn how to incorporate for all the other ancestors that are here giving you a lot of blessings that you may be missing out on. So let's see. I love the tobacco candle. It's really good for the Indians. So this is so interesting when people invite you to co-host. I want to hear what you guys say, because I don't normally do this. It's like I'm already overstimulated, trying not to listen in my head and listen to spirits talk to me while I read to share with you. I've had an answer my altar for years. After I saw your video, but why won't they work with me? If I make requests, they won't ever do it, but I make daily offerings. Well, I think there are a couple of things. One is you need to figure out if what's going on with the altar, right? Maybe it needs to be checked. Maybe the requests that you're making are not within their range or their scope of work. So ancestors don't really do certain types of work a lot, depending on what they are, what the requests are, who they are, and things like that. So I'm not really sure what the issue is here, but I do think that that's something that can be remedied, because ancestors are really, really good at helping with a lot of issues. I'm still dealing with the transition of my grandmother and husband. That's a lot. My heart goes out to you. Um, I would just continue to pray for them, to give them light and elevation. But that definitely is challenging. I know my grandma was Native American, and I've always felt a draw to Native American spirituality, but unsure how to connect. I would just say that, you may want to look into Native American practices. I don't know what group she was, what tribe or what group she was in, but there are a lot of things that you can do. One of the easiest things, I think, is to put a small little candle, put a glass of water, and just play the music. Or just walk around your house and talk and say, call her name and say, I'm playing this music for you. And I pray that it gives you elevation, and give me some kind of sign that you have received this offering of music. Should I keep my offerings for my ancestor altar separate from my personal altar? Well, if ancestor altar and personal altar should not be together to begin with. So if you're talking about personal altar, maybe you could say a little bit more about what's on the personal altar, or what it is that, I don't know what kind of personal altar you're having. If it's one for money drawing, love, luck, things like that, I would definitely keep them separate. Oh, that's crazy. My second great grandmother was lynched around 1890. Can or should I elevate her? I think you should be able to now. It's definitely um, way over 100 years, I think, definitely. But you can always, in a reading or something like that, if the person does ancestry work, can definitely ask her directly, is she ready to be elevated? But I definitely think, yeah, I would definitely say a lot of prayers for her and definitely elevate her. What is this one? What kind of help can ancestors give? Great questions. They can help with housing. They can help with family issues. They can help with health problems. They can help with money issues, stability. I mean, we'd be here all day. They can help with a lot of things. I would not look to the ancestors, as I've said in some of my videos around mistakes with the venerating the ancestors, is you're not really using them for hexing and doing negative work. Why? Because the ancestors are supposed to stay in a plane of positivity so they can continue to elevate. Now, if you have them doing negative work or dark work, now you're holding them down in a state that's keeping them more on this plane. Hey, pretty cool. You dreamt about your grandfather. Oh, Shay. Let's see what other questions we've got here. You guys have fantastic questions today. Thank you. Is it possible that a reading spirit guides is accurate information, I'm guessing, and my spirit guide is, oh yeah, and I'm not sure of this because I'm half Russian. Well, where you come from doesn't have anything to do with Orisha. Orisha has nothing to do with saying, well, if you're black, white, green, blue, whatever, then that they will not deal with you. Why? Because Orisha is primordial, natural energy. Oh, yeah, it's the wind. Well, the last time I checked, the wind has been here as long as the planet has, right? Without air, right, humans are not alive. So I wouldn't worry about that. I do caution about her being your spirit guide from a spiritual reading. That should be consulted by an Ifa priest, Ianifa like myself, a Babalao, or with Dilogun, the shells of Orisha. So a spiritual reading is not enough to give you who is going to be your deity of ordination if you're going to become an ordained Orisha priest. I have candles with names on them in there. I'm not sure of that question, my love. Send it back again for me. Let's see. Hey, thanks so much. All right, so we have I'm trying to find some questions here that I think could be very, very helpful to all of you. How can I work with St. Michael? Someone is working against me. Well, I mean, St. Michael is an archangel, right? Who's there for protection. A lot of people like to use the reversal candles or the pull-out candles for St. Michael. Can definitely do some work with like the mini swords that you can use for St. Michael. Definitely maybe doing a revocation or something like that at your door. My father passed away, and before his passing, he visited me in a dream and told me that he had to go buy stationery. Was this a visitation? Absolutely. 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 And I would go as far as saying that he may be giving you messages in your like messages through you writing things, right? Definitely like that. Let me see if I have some questions here. What about asking them to reverse harm that was sent? Again, I would say that ancestors, I would look to them for protection. You have spirit guides that you're born with. You have Saint Michael. There are a lot of energies to work with, and not just the ancestors around sending back. Ask them for protection, but asking them to send stuff, do this to this person and handle this for me. And I don't know if that's the best use of having their presence in your life, because you're trying to get them to elevate. If you have them doing hard, dark work, that does not go along with elevation, my love. Stay with me. It's very important for you guys to get this, because I've heard many people talk about asking the ancestors to do people in and things like that, and it just becomes problematic. So if you do that, all fine, but that's not a part of the way that I teach ancestor veneration. All right, let's see what else questions we've got here. Oh my. Well, I guess my do not disturb wasn't working. It says can be just say our elevated ancestors of light. Absolutely. Whatever works for you that speaks to elevating the ancestors. Okay. How can I give light to an ancestor that does not want to be a part of my life? Okay, I'm going to ask you, why would you give light? Why would you give light to someone who doesn't want it? How is that going to help you, and how is it going to help them? If they don't want it, I definitely wouldn't be giving it to them. I would send out light, I would send out prayers, I would send out good things like that for them, but I would not, sorry, my computer just unplugged, but I would not insist on them taking the light, forcing it on them, right? Because if not, then now you're getting into a relationship that is not of light, forcing light on them that they don't want. I'm not really sure how that's beneficial. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, let's see. Let's see another one. Hey, good to see you too. All right, my son and husband passed 3 years ago. So sorry for your loss. That's a lot. 4 months apart. I really want, I'm guessing that's to know if my husband was there to help my son cross over. How can I find out? You need to consult someone who knows how to contact the ancestors or deal with or talk with spirits on the other side, that they can answer that question, or they can reach out to him to see whether or not he will respond. That would be my answer to that. As a beginner, is it best to honor ancestors you are familiar with rather than ones you've never met? Ah, such a good question. Such a great question. I mean, it seems like it's a safe thing to do, right? If you're comfortable with that. Many people have never met the people who've passed on. So I'm sorry, take that back. They've met some of the people that have passed on. But I think that if you know, oh, my great grandmother knew me when I was a little girl, but I didn't remember her, totally fine. But there are times where people become too myopic. Because I know this parent, because I know this person, they stay only focused on them, when in all actuality, when you know them in your lifetime, sometimes they're not strong enough to really do very much. If they've passed, let's say in the last 10 years, if they've passed 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, Yes, they're much more elevated at that point. Okay, that's a great question. Okay, it says, can you have blockages from ancestors? Yes, yes, yes. Can you have blockages from ancestors? Absolutely. This is why it's important to know who you are or how you're going forward with your practice. And as I said before, people who know how to check these things, you want to be able to consult with them, whether it be in someone's name or just saying in general, I want to know how things are going with my altar. Is there anyone there that needs to be addressed? And so on and so forth, right? Definitely. So let me give you guys a little tidbit, right? So I had an issue with an ancestor that would continuously be showing up. I'd go places and they were talking to people. They were talking to mediums, other mediums that I knew. This person would just keep coming up and up and up. And I was like, what is the problem? Like, I've done things for this person, have had parties for them, drummings, prayers, spiritual circle, you name it. And I said, this is getting a bit out of hand now. And so one of the messages that came to me the other day through someone was that this ancestor is really angry about being on the other side and feels that a part of their mission has not been accomplished. And all of the work that I've done for them, in all actuality, has emboldened them, given them a lot of power and a lot of strength, which was the objective, right? But the flip side of that was that they were angry about leaving. So they were like, thanks for the food, thanks for the power, thanks for the all of this stuff that got me going. And now that people can hear me and see me, I'm going to tell them I don't want to be on the other side. I've got issues with that. And so this person eventually was causing some challenges for me, and I had to do work for them to help to kind of move them to the next level. So yes, they can definitely cause challenges without us knowing. Can I use a pendulum to connect with ancestors as a beginner? My grandmom committed suicide, and would it be possible to connect? If people have committed suicides, it is not advisable. Please watch my ancestor altar mistakes video. It's not advisable to be trying to overly connect with people if you are, one, not advanced and you're a beginner, two, you're using a pendulum, and three, you don't know what state the person is in. So if you want to do these things, you're more than welcome to experiment. I don't advise it if the person has ended their life. I also think it depends on how long. If this was, she did this 20 years ago, then yes, maybe connecting with her is totally fine. Speaking with her regularly through a pendulum, I wouldn't necessarily advise that. In the Yoruba faith, people use things like obi abata, obi obone, coconut, things like that to speak with the ancestors. A pendulum is unstable, so different spirits can come through to use it as a mode to speak through it. Really good question. Excellent question. I may put that in a video just so you guys are aware. I really like that question a lot. I mean, you guys had some great questions today that were that are questions to be used in a few videos. Is it true not to eat the candy offering? You can eat the candy offering when you're ready to throw it in the garbage. But if you put it on the altar and you're like, oh, these Snickers are really good, these chocolates are really good, and you're going over there every day eating their candy, that's not a good idea. But if you're removing it to discard it, I think that's totally fine. Yep. Glass of water, white candle, water filled to the top. Nice to use a vase, clear glass vase, but if all you have is a large glass of water, that's fine. On a white cloth, perfect for starting in a very modest way with the altar. Let's see if we've got any more over here on TikTok. Should I keep my offerings for my ancestors separate? Oh, I answered that. Let's see. Okay, I answered that about keeping them separate. Reason why I stepped into this practice, so thank you. So good to hear from you all. My father was murdered when I was an infant. How can I connect with him since I don't know him? Again, need to find someone who knows how to connect with spirit, like myself, or someone who's a seasoned medium who they can call him and find out what it is that he has to say. Wow, that's interesting. So this is crazy. So your father's saying that there's like an area, like a lookout area, where in some proximity of where he used to live, where it's like people go in a car. I don't know if it's on like a hill or something that oversees like a city or something. That's a great place to connect with him. I don't know where he passed away, but he's saying that's a good place to connect with him. That was a little unexpected. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Could banishing oil get rid of negative relatives? Nope, it's not strong enough. Because think about it, relatives are part of your bloodline, right? They're part of your skin, so to speak. You're right, your spiritual skin. And if a relative is like a mole, putting oil on it's not going to get rid of it, right? You need something stronger to be done procedurally if this spirit is a problem, right? Either encapsulating it, getting it removed, but oil is not strong enough normally to do that. Where can I look for a suitable reader? You're talking to one. I've been doing this for 25 years. Okay, or longer. Okay, I see okay, we're talking about angel numbers there. I'm Nigerian. Grandmom passed at old age. I read her biography and she was an herbalist, a grandmom. On my Russian side, she committed suicide. Thanks for the response. Wow. Got some good people in there though. This is an excellent question. So a lot of times spouses or partners love people who are in romantic relationships. They have ancestor altars together. XXX. I'm going to put that one here too. Ancestor altar mix. If you're married, you can put them beside each other. Your children can reflect on your altar because some of that lineage is the same. But if you are just lovers, that's a no, right? If you are a strong ancestor venerator and your spouse or your partner is not, it is best to keep it separate. You have different lineage. You guys aren't born from the same family. Some of these ancestors may not even eat the same food, right? Now there's going to be an imbalance where one group is pulling and pulling and pulling, and the other group is just totally fine. They're getting everything that they need. But if the other partner is not uplifting them enough, then you're actually making yourself out of balance. Thank you so much for that. Now you're making yourself, the individual who was chosen to put these two altars together, is now doing an injustice to your own people. So I just caution people with doing that. Putting your children are totally fine, reflecting through your altar. Marriage, you want to have them side by side, if you choose to, or in a separate space. But if you're not, did not have the commitment in from an astral realm, which is what marriage is, we can have a bigger conversation about that. Your children, I would caution people with mixing altars together. Why? Because you don't have the same ancestry. You don't have the same. If that's the case, then why are you even in a romantic relationship? So you want to be very careful with some of that so that your people are not going, who are these people? Like, what y'all doing over here? All right. You coming over here eating up my food and taking my prayers and all my stuff. And so I just caution people. Why? Because they're still the same people, even though they're on the other side. It's okay for a husband and wife with children to combine ancestor altars. Absolutely, mention that. Okay. I appreciate hearing that. I'm going to just read that for everyone's benefit. It says, I love this channel. Very important information and advice here that no one gives, especially for free. Yep. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so very much. So, family, before we get off, I'd love some suggestions about 2020, 2026, making some changes with the channel, making some changes around social media. And would love to hear some suggestions, just because now, I'm very focused on tightening the channel a little bit more as time goes on. And I'd love to hear what you all have to suggest on our social media, in spirituality, how we can support you and support your spiritual journey in different ways. And I'd be curious to know, if you were in our paid membership, what would that look like? What would you want to see in a paid membership program? How can I tell if they're happy with a tobacco candle? Well, the tobacco candle should not be burnt on a regular basis because it's not white. And once in a while, it's totally fine as a treat. It's a fragrance candle. The Indians enjoy it, but it should not be a regular. Rituals at portals. What does that mean? Rituals. I'm going to write that down. At portals. How can you burn ancestor money? We're talking about expanding the channel and paid membership. What would that look like? Well, Black Destroyer oil is to definitely break and to send away negativity and to block. Hey, sounds great. We look forward to visiting you, having a visit from you. Sorry. Thank you so much. Purchase a couple of classes. Can you follow up on how to proceed with mishaps that happen, or good signs to look for when a work is complete? Okay, that's a good one. When work is complete. I think when work is not working, people are pretty clear about that, but maybe those are two different videos. When work is complete, what are some of the signs, right? And if work is not going well, what are some of the signs? Let's see, my TikTok people, do you have any questions before we close? Hey, sounds good. Thank you for the message from your father. Yes, my pleasure. All right, family. So we're gonna be wrapping up. Let's see what other good questions you may have before we close. So I hope that today's talk was really helpful for you. I feel like people always have more questions to ask about the ancestors than they do about spirit guides and spirits in general. And we all have ancestors. We all need their support. As much as we may not realize that we need it, we all need their support. Why? Because we have been given gifts from our ancestors. We've been given gifts of prosperity, of how to sing, how to cook, how to dance, right? Some people have the gift of having children. Some people have the gift of having good health, right? Good mental aptitude. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of some of the blessings. The gift of stability. Some people, they're into real estate. Well, a lot of times people get these gifts and these blessings from their ancestors, right? They're people who have the gift of just getting money. Some of that is also the gift from their ancestors. And we all need their support, whether or not you're into having an altar, you're not having into having an altar, it doesn't matter. However you choose to venerate is up to you. Just know that you have their support. But the ones that need your support through light, through prayers, through an altar, through having masses for them, through doing different things, next Monday, my love, next Monday, we're going to be doing Monday Madness. For right now, we're going to be doing Monday Madness with my lives. So the ancestors who really need us, it also works both ways, right? We as humans, we're like me, 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 me. Yeah, that's important. But if we're out of balance, it's important to try to get in touch with mediums that you know, people who are versed in contacting spirit, to be able to answer some of these questions so that they can help you better in your journey of having a space for your ancestors. And just know that there's more than one way to venerate. There's the Yoruba Ifa way of calling them Egungun and dealing with ancestors. There is the Lukumi way, which is what most people know here in the United States, through having up a space / boveda where they have candles, light, water, all of these different things. Ancestors are venerated slightly different in Africa. I think it also depends on where you come from and how you come to it, right? How you come to the practice. But whatever you do, one last thing that I'd like to share with all of you before we go. The ancestors love consistency. They want you to be consistent. If you put that altar up, they don't want to hear that it came down last week and your girlfriend was talking trash about it and you took it down, and oh, I moved and I haven't put it back up in a year, and oh, I don't have space. You can have an ancestor altar on a windowsill. If that's all you have, work with what you have if you're choosing to put up a space for them. If you're not, thank you so much. It is totally fine. Don't feel pressured in doing these things. I know that it's a really big thing to have up a space for your ancestors for some people. And I mean, I've had one up for over 30 years. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that it's something that works for you, that it makes sense for you. Say prayers for them. Give them prayers from where they come from. If they are people who are Christians, give them some prayers. Play some gospel music for them. If they were from another country, play some of that kind of spiritual doctrine from wherever they come from. We had Russians on here. We had Italians earlier. We had Nigerians. We had all different kinds of people. So wonderful to see all of you participating with me. Definitely play some things from where they come from so they can hear it and it pulls their energy as well. So I hope that today was very helpful. It was great seeing all of you, participating with you. Definitely look out for me on Mondays. And love you all. Love your comments, love your questions, and see how we can go forward with having some new, fresh information that can be helpful to all of you. And definitely when we start our membership program here on YouTube, you'll be participating with me, because there's going to be stuff you will never see on the internet. I'm advanced, and I love to share advanced information to all of you, and see you, and definitely say a special, special prayer to your ancestors and thank them. Tell them how grateful you are for the life that you have today, because all of you who are on here have access to the internet, have access to technology, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. And see you next time. Love you all. Support you all. Ashe, ashe, ashe. We're going to ring that bell and say adios. Let's see if I can do that. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. See ya.